Hi folks, I'm just going to do a little demonstration video on a new van here, just to give you a rundown how everything operates. I'm starting off here with the control panel just above the hab door, and what you can see here is the master switch. That switches the van, it says master off, master back on again, and then we have our pump switch, and that brings on our pump. If you want any pressure in your taps, you have to have your pump on, or flushing the toilet. There's the pump off again, and that's the lights inside the van. So whatever lights you have on inside the van, you can come on at night time and just hit that, and that'll light up the whole van. And that's just the awning light outside. And then you can see awning on, and then on and off. And then over on this side here, if you flick through here, you can see all the conditions of everything. So you see that's their temperature outside. More temperatures. Your battery. Now on this one here, it says battery select. Always leave it on leisure. No, don't change the vehicle, because if you do that, it's going to run down your engine battery. So always make sure that's on leisure, just in case somebody hits it by accident. Over here shows you that's the current. That's what we're drawing at the moment, is 3.8 amps. We have a lot of lights on the van here. That's your leisure battery voltage condition. It's a 12.1. Now the van's not plugged in, but if we plug in the van, that'll go up. It should go up to about 13.5, and when you start your engine, that'll go up as well. Your water levels is 70%, and your wastewater is 12%. The full external tank, there's a little pump that goes onto the side of the van. If you want to pump the water in through, there's an electric pump, or there's another hose there that I made up there that you can put onto the outlet and just fill it with an ordinary hose from outside, and that just fills up your tank, and you'll see the level inside. Keep an eye on that. So that's just your control panel. So the next thing we're going to look at here is your fridge, and we have our main control knob, and you can see when it's in the up position, it's off. The first setting is on mains when you're plugged in. The second one down here is the wee battery, and that only operates when the engine's actually running. So when the engine's running, that'll keep the fridge cool when you're travelling. Now you need to have the fridge sort of cold beforehand. That's not going to really cool your fridge down when you're driving. So the best thing to do is to cool your fridge on mains the night before you leave. Switch it onto that so it's cold the next day, and then when you're travelling, then that'll maintain the fridge while you're travelling. And the last one then is gas. Now when you go onto gas, you're going to have to go over here, and this is your gas valve. You press that in and hold your finger on that button, and the gas will light. Now I think the gas is off at the moment, but what happens is once the gas lights, the little red line here will go up just past that black bar there into the green a wee bit, and that'll show you that your fridge is lit in gas. So that's how that operates there. And if it goes down back in the white, that means it's gone off, and it's probably run out of gas. Now the door itself just opens. Press the wee button here. You have a couple of wee useful features inside the fridge. You can see there's a wee thing you press here, and you can push that forward. And what that does is, if you see the door catch there, that'll actually vent the fridge door. So what it does there, you can see the light there. That vents the fridge door when the fridge is off and you're not using the van. Just let a bit of air into it, and then you can push that back in, and it'll go back in again. And another thing you can do in this fridge, if you see there's a little catch on each side, if you remove them, you can actually remove the freezer and have a bigger fridge. So if you're not really interested in having too much of a freezer, you can take the freezer out completely, take off this door and store it somewhere and put it back in again when you're finished, if you want to put the freezer back in. But that's just one way of making your fridge bigger if you're not into having a freezer. So that's your fridge. So the next thing we're going to look at here is your heating. Now the way the heating actually works, it works on electric or it works on gas. And the way you'll select electric and gas is on this bottom one. At the moment here it's on gas. If you want electric, there's two elements. There's a 900 watt element, and then there's another 900 watt element, so that you have 900 or 1800. So if you want electric, go to the very top, that's 1800 or 900. Gas in the middle on its own, and then down the bottom is a mixture of both. So if we go to this next one, we have gas and one element, and the bottom we have gas and two elements. So the fastest way of heating the van is putting it on gas and the two elements. If you need to be plugged in and your gas switched on. If you're not plugged in and you're wild camping, you'll just have to build it. The only thing you can use is gas, and when it's on electric now, the heating won't run as hot as it does in gas. It'll go a lot slower, and it'll sound a lot quieter as well. But if you're in a campsite, you can set this up the bottom and heat the van and heat your water on electric. Now the top one now is if I just leave this on gas here, this top one here, the way it operates, this little nub here is at 0, so your heating's actually off. To bring on your heating, bring it down to this first one and you get a green light coming on. Now the green light is normal operation. If that stays lit, everything's okay. If your gas is switched off, you'll get a red light coming on in there after about 30 seconds, which telling you that the heating hasn't switched on properly. You'll have to go out and switch on your gas. So the that's normal there, you get the green light coming on, and the temperature inside the van is this inner knob here, and it goes from 1 to 5. Now at 5 it'll never ever stop, but at 3 it'll come on and it'll go off as the temperature rises inside the van. So that's heating the van. The bottom one is heating the van and the water at 60 degrees. And then at the top then, just to heat the water on its own, you can either choose 40 or 60. Now 60 is really for having a shower. And you can see when we're heating water, we get a yellow light on here. Now as soon as it gets to 60 degrees and it's heated the whole tank to 60, that yellow light will go out. So if we're in 40, you can heat the water to 40 degrees, let the yellow light go out, and that's as much hot water as you're going to get. And then about 10 minutes before you want to have a shower, flick it on to 60. And while you're having the shower, the boiler will be running and you'll get the maximum amount of hot water. So that's just 60 and 40. 40 is for normal operation inside the van, doing dishes and stuff, and 60 is really for having a shower because it is fairly hot. And that's just the temperature inside the van. That doesn't affect anything when you're running hot water, it's only for the heating. And we'll put it back to 0 then, and that's it off. Now the only thing you're going to have to look at with the heating, I'm going back here underneath your bed, there's your heater in the corner, and I know there's a lot of cushions and stuff in here, but we'd recommend maybe not storing too much stuff around the heater, because the heater needs to breathe a bit. So if you can just keep that in mind. And if we look down in here, you can see the yellow dump valve. Now at the moment it's closed, and to open that you just lift it up the way and you can hear the water actually run out of the van, and that's the way it should be closed. So in the winter time, if you want to protect the van from frost, you're going to have to open this up here to the up position and open all your taps with the pump off in between hot and cold. So all your taps in between hot and cold, and what that'll do there is it'll drain all the pipework out through this valve out onto the street outside, and it'll drain all the water out of your hot water tank, your boiler, and that'll protect that from frost. So when you come back then to refill the van and use the van, you're going to have to close this valve down the way it is at the moment, and switch on your hot tap. And your hot tap then, the pump will then fill up the hot water boiler and blow all the air out of the boiler itself out through your tap. And then once you get a free flow in your tap, that's you back in action again. So that's your frost valve in there, and where that is just underneath those heating pipes, just underneath the bed. What I was saying there about storing stuff, you can see you have your pump here, and that's just sitting inside the boot as well. So if you can avoid maybe having too much stuff in the boot up against these pipes and wires and stuff, that you're not going to get any leaks or pipes coming off. So just to be aware of stuff like that. You can see your filler here, that's the filler from outside. There's a pump there, there's a connection on the outside that plugs into that, and one of them has got a pump on it that you can pump out of like a container, and the other one has got a connection on it for a hose, and you just connect the hose into it and fill the van through that hose from outside. I'll show you that outside in a minute. So we're just in your bathroom here now, and I'll just show you the toilet. With the pump on, you'll flush here, and you have a red light on here when your cassette's full. Now this container here is filled from outside, and it's got its own separate water supply. It doesn't come off the main water tank, it's got its own water tank, and I'll show you that outside where it fills up from. Now we're just looking at one of your taps here. What I'm talking about in between hot and cold when you're winterizing the van, turn off your pump, and that's hot and that's cold. So in between hot and cold, lift your tap up, and that'll let air into your tap, and it'll go out through that little yellow valve. And in the very, very heavy frost like we had a few years ago, we'd always recommend blowing into the tap just to get any excess water from the tap itself blowing out, and it'll all go out through that yellow valve when you're winterizing the van. So just do your 3 taps, your one here, your one on your shower, and your kitchen tap, and that will winterize your van for you. So what we're looking at here now is your main control box, and it's just underneath the seat there behind the passenger seat. You just lift this up here, take your cushion off, and what you have here is your main 240 volt trips, and they should be up the way. When they trip, they go down like that and reset them up. And at the bottom here you can see all your fuses, your 12 volt fuses for your lights and different sockets and stuff, and they're all just ordinary car fuses here along the bottom. The only other thing you have underneath the seat, that's your solar controller, the regulator for the solar panel, and you can see the little charging light flashing. Now there's nothing to do with that, but just if you're wondering what that is, that's what that is. That's your solar regulator for the solar panel, and that's putting power into your battery from the solar panel all the time. Sorry, there's one thing I forgot to tell you now about the heating. Below the heating switches, there's a 240 volt room heater switch. That needs to be switched on before you operate any electric heating up here. It's just an extra switch that they've in the van. So we're just looking at your hob here. Your hob has there's an igniter down on the front of the oven, but that actually sparks the hob as well. And you have all your different your 4 rings just here at the front, and then on this you have your oven valve here on this side, and the same thing with the igniter, and your grill is over that side. So when they're facing up the way on towards the 0, they're off, and then bring them around to the flame, hold them in as normal, and just use your igniter to light them up. Now underneath the oven there's 4 gas valves, and they're actually open in that position now. Just in case somebody comes in and starts screwing at them, they should be in that position there for open.